What's up, y'all? Back again here on the Library of Congress's website, looking at some old records, or I should say listening to some old records and seeing what we can restore. For this, I just kind of skimmed through some random ones and found one that sounded pretty good. This is an Italian song. I'm not going to try to pronounce that because I'm going to slaughter the name, but there's a lot of noise. But I think we can salvage this old record. And again, if you're trying to get into audio engineering and audio restoration, specifically more like forensic audio, so I'd recommend resources like this. But yeah, if you want to check out the same record, this is what it's called. This is where it's at. So let's dive into iZotope RX and see what we can do with this. So back in iZotope RX, I have the record kind of pulled up here, and we can see illustrated here on this graph that are pretty bright, and compared to the noise in the background, you can see the vibrato of the singer's voice is kind of cool. But anyway, let me zoom out so we see the entire picture again. But yeah, there's a lot of noise, a lot of crackle, a lot of hiss. But again, this tool is pretty fantastic at removing this stuff. There are a lot of other tools that do really similar things for cheaper. So first thing I want to do with this is kind of get rid of some of these pops and clicks. So I'm going to either try to use the de-crackle. So I'm going to select a small portion at the beginning here, vinyl, crackle, and slow. So I can hit render, and it removed a lot already. See all the lines disappear there. Again, there's no like one magic button that's going to fix everything, so we might want to actually increase this strength a bit more. And I'm going to select the entire record here and see what it can remove in the first pass. So again, when it comes to audio restoration, it's its own art form. It's a lot of it is kind of artistic choices. You want to repair without causing more damage and adding more artifacts in the end result. So you kind of have to do it a little by little. So yeah, I removed a lot of the little crackles, pops and clicks and stuff. It didn't remove everything though. So I'm gonna run another pass. Now I'm gonna run declick, random clicks. Bump up the sensitivity a little bit here. You can play around with the skewing. I'm gonna leave it at the default though. Select the small bit at the beginning, and it did catch some stuff at the beginning too. And I'm gonna render the whole thing. So I'm gonna select all the track, hit render. Got rid of most of it, but I can paint that out. So I'm gonna use this little wand looking tool here, or this lasso tool, sorry. Close this. And then I'm gonna engage this instant process, meaning whatever I choose here, when I select it, it's gonna start whatever I have selected here. So you have the options of attenuate, declick, fade, gain, and replace. First, I'm going to try the attenuate option. So I'm going to select this. Not bad. So there's a few different noise reduction tools we can use, but because it has that good selection of the noise in the beginning, we're going to use that to train our denoising modules. Select and use the reduction curve. I'm gonna have the best quality and select a bit of the beginning. I'm really exaggerated right now. I'm just gonna select the beginning. First, I'm gonna have it bypassed. That sounds significantly better to me. So I'm going to select all, hit render. Here is using the scene rebalance. I'll render this one. All right. So here's with the scene rebalance applied. It kept a lot of the high end, a good range there. It almost has a little buzzy noise though. This is very top section, so you'd probably roll off a little bit of the high end again. And this was the spectral denoise. Scene rebalance, using that to denoise. For this particular example, I'd probably actually run both of these in parallel. So it definitely removed a good chunk and gave us a clean kind of slate to work from. But from here is where I'd probably actually start with the spectral denoising now, as now we have a better starting point. Select all, hit render. So now I feel like it had the benefit of both to my ear, where it naturally still has that top end. We didn't have to artificially create it from the original recording, and a clean noise removal without removing too much of the original audio. It's a really pretty record. But yeah, so that's kind of the order that I would approach restoring this if I was hired to kind of do this. Doing like the de-crackle to get rid of the original, like the vinyl kind of crackly noises that just happens naturally. The de-click to get rid of the larger pops and clicks that may come into play here. And then probably run, with this particular case, the scene rebalance tool, which you can utilize as a noise reduction tool, as you just saw, and then finalizing that with a spectral denoise. Now, this is fine as is. However, if you wanted to take it a step further, you can utilize another tool or a different DAW to add additional EQ to kind of boost and emphasize things that are in this record. But that's more like remastering, and we're not aiming for that for this video. It's just restoring the audio. Okay, so we're back in Adobe Audition, and I was going to play the original audio file with all the distortion. I had a lot of work to work on there, a lot of things to address. Then we cleaned it up using iZotope RX. And you can stop there if you wanted to, or if you wanted to take a step further, which completely unnecessary. I threw it through a different program to split it into its stems, so separated the vocal and the piano. So here's the isolated vocal. Added a little bit of EQ to it. And then here was the piano solo. So with that, added a bit of EQ and some reverb. So you could keep it simple like this. And this is a separate piano stem that was I was able to separate from the other one. So it just picked up a few different frequencies in here, so I'll solo this as well. So with this other piano sample, I added some more reverb as well, using Valhalla. Then I played around using the density plugin. Again, here's the acapella. EQ. you could have left it where it was at right there. Or if you really wanted to go above and beyond and unnecessary, you can add additional plugins like this one, Vox Pro. If you wanted to add a final touch, you can kind of bring it all together using a litany of different tools. I just threw on Waves mastering plugin. Sounds fantastic to me. Again, don't necessarily need to do this whole extra step, but splitting it into its own individual stems will allow me to kind of process different parts differently, adding different EQ and effects, which is kind of more so of like remastering things. But again, you could have just left it as it was with just the cleaned up audio. Anyway, hopefully you found this video somewhat entertaining and helpful. Be sure to stay tuned and tune in for more tutorials and walkthroughs.